Welcome, everyone, to Never Stop Dreaming, a podcast where we dive deep into dreams and aspirations, goals, self-growth and discovery, and living life to the max. I'm your host, Connor, and in this episode of the show, I sit down with Marques Ogden, a former NFL player and current businessman, motivational speaker, and best-selling author. In our conversation, we discuss lessons and takeaways from Marques' time in the NFL, hitting rock bottom, inspiring others, and so much more. Thanks for taking the time to tune in, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks, Marques, for joining me today. And so one of the first questions I ask each of my guests is, since this show is about kind of goals and dreams and aspirations, what is your own personal life dream of yours?
One of my personal life dreams, Connor, is to help as many people as possible achieve their dreams and their aspirations. That's why we got into speaking, coaching, consulting. We have our own podcast, written a few books. And that was always a dream of mine, was to take my life where I failed and help others succeed in their life in those exact same instances.
Yeah, I love that. That's honestly one of the things I think more of us should do, is just help each other along the way. I guess kind of just going off of that, the next question I wanted to ask is just to learn a bit more about you and your story. So based off what you've told me, you've been through a lot, you have a story unlike any I've ever heard before. So just who is Marques Ogden? Like, what's your background? What's your story? What's your experience like?
So Connor, Marques Ogden is from Washington, D.C. He went to St. John's College High School, where Kevin Plank, who founded Under Armour, went to high school. He then went to Howard University, played football for the Howard University Bison, had a great career at Howard, left Howard, was drafted into the National Football League, drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and my old head coach, Jack Del Rio, who was a defensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commodores, excuse me. That's their new name. And so for there, great career in the National Football League, lots of great friends, great experiences. Left the NFL, struggled immensely, Connor, for about 6 months with transition issues, alcohol addiction, painkillers, nightlife, gambling. And unfortunately, Connor, as I lived that life, I defiled myself, and I just made myself very just not living in the best life. Thank goodness I put the bottle down, and I founded and built a construction company, Caden Premier Enterprises. We became the largest African-American subcontractor in the area of site work, utilities, development in the city of Baltimore and in the state of Maryland for 2 years. We were an 8-figure a year business. Things were awesome. We were booming. But unfortunately, Connor, as the company started to grow, my ego and my bravado grew right along with it. I made some mistakes. I became focused on money, not on helping my team and my clients. And as my team started to evaporate and go away from the company, that, along with a really bad job I took on, where I spent between $2.5 and $3 million in 90 days to try to get a job site rectified, finished the job. But the developer and the contractor said, well, Marques, that was part of your original buyout for your contract. We're not going to give you any extra change order money. And it sent me into a Chapter 7 complete bankruptcy, where I lost everything. Home foreclosed on, both cars repossessed, Connor, in the same day. I lost it all. Moved to North Carolina with my fiance, who's now my wife, and my stepdaughter. And I worked a couple different jobs. I was fired from 2 jobs in the same week. I ended up coaching football to the youth, which was great. But as my kids started having football practices and games, the kids started coming less. I need to make money. I took a job as a custodian, working for $8.25 an hour on the graveyard shift from 10 p.m. till 5 a.m. And I ended up having my rock bottom moment of clarity when I was working as a custodian on the night shift, when somebody's trash and rotten meat and nasty protruding garbage kind of go in my body, my skin, and my clothes. And that was my wake-up call. And I said, if I don't get my life together now, become more accountable and more responsible, I'm going to be right here for the rest of my life. Made the decision to get my life back on track. Said, oh, I'm pretty good at communication and storytelling and wanting to help people. Let's be a speaker. That sounds great. That sounds easy. Let's just go ahead and do that. Launched the speaking business, and for 2.5 years, not one paid job, not one. Got my first paid job April 2016 with Miller Mock College in Wilmington, North Carolina. And from there, got coached, got better at my craft. And today, our company has worked for 35 Fortune 500 brands as a speaker in the last 6 years. We are a 3-time best-selling author, coach, consultant, podcast co-host, brand ambassador. And we love just helping anybody, Connor, go from where they are to where they want to be in their life.
Yeah, there's a ton to unpack there that we can get into, but that's quite the journey that you've had throughout your years. But I wanted to start, I guess, kind of back with your time in the NFL. I think obviously for people like me who watch the NFL like on TV, it's kind of hard to understand or know exactly like what's going on with the players and like what their own life is like. So I guess one of the things that I'm curious about is kind of what your biggest takeaways from your time in the NFL were, and kind of just like how you still use those takeaways and what you learned in your experience today.
The biggest takeaways for me, Connor, was how to stay focused and be disciplined in everything you do. And I utilize that today in my business, because without it, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So without a doubt, I really use focus and discipline to make sure that everything I need to do in my life stays on track.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are two huge things that I sometimes personally struggle with, that. Just holding myself accountable for all sorts of things, but it's definitely a very helpful thing that more people should have in their lives for sure. And then I guess like just going off of that, you said you lost about $2 to $3 million in the span of 90 days, which for most people is kind of hard to even fathom, let alone like most people wouldn't be able to recover from something like that. So what was kind of just your mindset shift that you needed to recover from a loss like that, and just become the successful leader and coach and author and speaker that you are today?
Well, honestly, Connor, I had to hit rock bottom to be able to understand that the way I was living my life as a greedy, maniacal, egotistical owner was not going to get me very far. So once I hit rock bottom and I was able to see the way I was living my life was no good, that was the wake-up call that I needed to get my life back on track. And as a result of that, I had to relearn, discipline, focus, hard work. And because of that, I was able to get my life back on track. And you need to understand that I needed to hit that rock bottom in order to get to where I'm at today. Because without that rock bottom, I don't think I ever would have learned that the way I was treating people with my business when I had Caden at the end was wrong. And because of that, in our new business and our new venture, I've learned how to treat people better. This way, we're not having any issues and we're always staying at the top of our game.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's something that it's hard to see when you're in that situation, but I think in a lot of ways you kind of have to be in a tough situation like what you were in, and in a sense be like at the bottom of the valley in order to appreciate like where you like just the journey you've come and to climb the top of the mountain in a sense. So I guess going off of that as well, just a lot of people are in or have been in a situation like you where they're in a dark place, where they feel lost or like they've hit rock bottom. So what advice would you have for people who are in that situation and just looking to get out?
So first thing they have to do, Connor, they have to write down their strengths. Society programs us to focus on what we don't do well. And now, again, you need to know what you don't do well and improve upon it. But if you're in a really dark place, struggling, you're feeling dilapidated, broke down, you need to focus on your strengths and then take your strengths and then build towards what you want to achieve, or what I like to call is reverse engineer backwards from your strengths to help you turn your goals into accomplishments. And one of the things I also like to try to live by is focus on less and then obsess. And I don't mean obsess like become a crazy stalker. I mean obsess and pull from your subconscious, where you can break down 40 million bits of information in a matter of seconds. But to get there takes focus, discipline, hard work. Think about people like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, athletes, Tom Brady. Then in the business world, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Damon John. Those are phenomenal people who have pulled from their subconscious in order to turn their goals into accomplishments. And I want your audience to remember this, remember it really well. Goals are amazing. Like, we need to have goals, but people don't pay us, Connor, off our goals. People pay us off our accomplishments, what we've accomplished, what we've done in life, and who we have helped achieve their goals. So in order to really get yourself on that track, you have to figure out what you do well and build from there.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely a bit relate to that, as in just I've been doing like a ton of self-reflection a lot recently and kind of just writing a lot more about what I actually want in life, like what I'm strong at, what my goals are and stuff. And it's definitely helpful to, like you said, reverse engineer everything and kind of have a broad picture of what you want, what you're strong at, and then just break it down even further from there is definitely very helpful. So I guess transitioning a bit to what you currently do with your coaching and consulting, what is it that you enjoy most about your communications related jobs that you do right now? And then what are the most important lessons that you teach? I know this is kind of a two-part question. So I guess, first of all, what's the thing that you enjoy most about coaching and consulting other businesses and individuals?
I love to see, and our brand, love to see when the light bulb turns on and people are like, wow, and are excited about knowing what they can do and what they can accomplish because they have the tools necessary to do so. So we're really big in that regard of giving people the tools that they need to go from where they are to where they want to be. So the first part to your question is getting people to see the light bulb turn on, or to have them flip the switch that they can achieve greatness in their life with whatever they're doing, as long as they believe in themselves going forward.
Yeah. And then the second part to that, just what are, I guess, the most important lessons that you try and teach your clients to kind of help them find similar success to you? So that might be in business or life, or just based on your own background and experiences, what are kind of the most important lessons that you've taken from your own life and try to help others with?
I've taken two lessons: accountability and responsibility. Accountability is the internal promise that you make to yourself to see your goals through. Again, accountability is the internal promise that you make to yourself to see your goals through to the finish line. Responsibility is the external promise that you make to others, or the external that you tell someone you're going to do something for them and either help them or help alleviate something from them, or just to do something for them because you want to. So for example, I'm always responsible to my wife to pick up my daughter Mondays at 3:00 from school. I'm always responsible to my business partner, if we're going to meet at my house, to be here and get work done because we have things we have to do. Now, accountability is me making the internal promise to myself that I'm never going to give up no matter what. And this year, Connor, it's shaping up to be a really tough year for people. Mortgage industry's down, real estate's down, financial, is in turmoil with the stock market. I just saw where Russia has now moved troops closer to Ukraine, and they're actually doing they've got live weapons and ammunition, and they're probably going to be going to war. And they're telling people, if you're from America and you're in Ukraine, get out now. I mean, all these things. And literally, our world is in shambles. I mean, everywhere you turn, it seems to be some sort of problem. So what I tell people is that we have to be focused and go in that regard.
Yeah, that's great advice. And the world is a bit of a odd place in a lot of ways right now. So it's definitely important advice and lessons for people right now. So shifting a bit, you are a best-selling author of a book called Success Cycle, and I want to dive a bit deeper into that and learn more about what it was like to write that. So just what are some of the biggest lessons that you want your readers to take away from your book? Like, what was it like writing your book? And just like when you were in the process of writing the Success Cycle, what were some of the key takeaways that you wanted readers to get out of it?
So the Success Cycle was written to help people focus on ambition, drive, and hard work. Ambition, create a blueprint for your life. Drive, be inspired over motivated. And hard work, focus on yourself and not the competition. So it was really written to help others get ambitious, get driven, and be hardworking towards their goals.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. Those are lessons that I think anybody can take away. And then, do you have plans to write any more future books? Like, have you thought that far in advance? I think your book was from 2020. Was that it?
Correct. Yeah, we'll be writing another book probably in about 6 months to a year around pivot, because a lot of people have had to pivot as a result of challenging times, economy, all types of difficult things. So we're looking to write this book on helping people learn how to pivot through really challenging situations and times.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. That's definitely a very helpful topic for kind of what we were just talking about. The world we live in right now can be a bit crazy. And so you are a motivational speaker and leader, and have been in the field for a while now. So I guess a lot of people are in a situation where they want to become a leader and inspire others like you do. And so what advice would you give for these aspiring leaders like yourself, and for people who just want to make a difference and positively impact people around them?
Live by the law of influence. When you touch more people's life and you amplify who you help, it only makes you that much more fulfilled because you're helping others get what they want. So live by the law of influence to touch as many lives as possible, to help you, to help others get what they want out of life. So live your life by the law of influence.
Gotcha. Good advice right there. And then finally, this is just a last question that I always kind of like to think about and ask people, especially older than me, because I'm still pretty young. But what's one of your biggest pieces of advice that you, looking back at your younger self, you'd give to your younger self now that you know or have learned a certain lesson? What's just one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Learn how to be an active listener and learn how to deal with criticism and constructive, feedback better. I didn't process things well when I was younger. I was fiery. I was really upset. I would always just, fire back at somebody. So I would tell people, I would tell myself, learn how to be more of an active listener, listen to things. And from there, that would help me and help over in general, get me to where I want to be in a better position.
I like that. And that's definitely helpful for me, who's still a young person, kind of on a journey through life right now. And I guess, do you have any other things that you want to leave my audience with, or takeaways? I guess you could re-emphasize a couple of things you talked about, if you want to leave the listeners with anything last minute advice.
Yeah. In times of extreme darkness, focus on the light. Aristotle, one of the best quotes I've heard. And I think Aristotle was trying to say that the light should come from within inside of you. Find that internal flame that should burn forever until you're no longer here on this earth. And just keep that flame going and move it in the direction of trying to achieve your goals. That way, you'll never, ever doubt yourself. You'll never, ever quit. And if you always bet on yourself, you always have the best chance to win.
I love that. That's a good piece of advice. So for the listeners who want to learn more about you or what you do, where can they find your work or your book or any other links that you may have for them to learn more about you?
They can go to our website, www.marques, Ogden, OGDEN.com, and they can connect with us there. So go to marquesogden.com or shoot us an email at marcus@marquesogden.com. Connect with us, get in touch with us, and let's have a conversation.
Perfect. And I'll link those down in the show notes when I publish this. But again, thanks, Marques, for taking the time joining me today. That was really cool to learn about your story and everything you've been through, especially because you have a story honestly unlike anybody else, and it's just inspiring to hear. And I hope my listeners and anyone out there is just as inspired as me right now. So thank you again, Marques. And for listeners, I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening to this episode of Never Stop Dreaming. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on the platform you're listening on, as it really does help out a ton. Finally, if you enjoy the podcast, you'll love our weekly newsletter. Sign up below to receive inspirational stories, unique perspectives, and life lessons delivered to your inbox every single week. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.